there, it's Kevin with GatheringMagic.com. We're here with this week's episode of the Rogues Alley. This week I am going to playtest a card from my top 10 list of cards that I am most excited to brew around. You can go check out my YouTube channel for that complete list. And we'll probably see a lot of them on this channel in the Rogues Alley week by week, counting down that list. We'll also see some on my own channel. I'll try to test with those specific cards. But my number one card is Crested Sunmare, by far, because I am known as the Soul Sisters player, and anything that gains life in white that could go in Soul Sisters is, of course, going to be a pet card of mine, or at least a card that I try and test out in the deck. But today we are not going to play Soul Sisters. We're going to play Standard and see if Crested Sunmare can actually be supported enough in Standard. Now, there's two routes to go. One is with a lot of lifelink creatures, and the other is with spells or other abilities that just flat out gain life. Now in white, there is a couple of implements and a spell that cycles that gain life and draw a card, which I think are okay with Crested Sunmare, but I think what we really need with Crested Sunmare is immediate value. You don't want to have to wait for this turn to stick around, and you don't want to have to rely necessarily on lifelink creatures to attack in the turn that you cast the Crested Sunmare. So I am going to use two cards specifically that I think are the best enablers for Crested Sunmare, and those are Retreat to Hagra and Drana's Emissary. Both of those are really good because you are going to gain that life on the turn that you're playing Crested Sunmare. The curve is nice. They're 3-drops, and Crested Sunmare is a 5-drop, and so you should have one of these cards out on time. The Emissary is a little bit vulnerable in a format with Magma Sprays and Shocks and Fatal Pushes, Grasp of Darkness. So I'm only run 2 of the Emissaries, but I'm going to run a full package of Retreat to Hagra. So we're also going to try to make it worthwhile to play with Retreat to Hagra. So I'm going to have some Walking Ballistas, a 4 of in the sideboard, as I think this combos insanely well with Walking Ballista. You can cast Walking Ballista usually for 4 mana, have a counter on the Walking Ballista, and then the following turn, if you play it on a land, you can give the Walking Ballista Death Touch, even add a counter to the Walking Ballista, and then shoot down 2 creatures. So I think the value is just is going to be pretty powerful with Walking Ballista Retreat to Hagra. And of course, if you just need to gain some life, we have 4 Evolving Wilds and 20 other lands in this deck that can help us kind of stem off the aggro. I don't think aggro is going to be a problem with this deck with all of the kind of roadblocks and life gain that we have in this deck. So another card that actually pairs really well with the Crested Sunmare is the Aethersphere Harvester, as you can play it on turn 3, and then when you cast the Crested Sunmare, you can crew the Aethersphere Harvester and attack in with that lifelink damage to immediately get that horse at the end of turn. Other than that, we are going to be running some of the lifelink creatures. I'm going to run 6 of these, and those are going to be the Gifted Aetherborn. Kalitas is the other card we're going to run. Is a 3/4 lifelink that can get bigger in a 20 creature deck with a lot of control elements to it, like the 3 of Grasp of Darkness and 4 Fatal Push, as well as 3 Blessed Alliance. You can get a lot of value out of Kalitas. Of course, it does curve nicely with the Crested Sunmare, as it's a turn 4 into a turn 5. Other than that, we're going to fill up the deck with the control, like I said, the 4 Fatal Push, the 3 Grasp of Darknesses, the 3 Blessed Alliances. I also have some flex creatures. Ayli, Eternal Pilgrim, works pretty well with Crested Sunmare because it allows you to sacrifice a creature to gain 5 life. So even if you feel like the board is pretty much stale, and I mean, for example, you gain the 5/5 horse, and you're going into your opponent's end step. You'll pause at their main phase. You think they're not going to do anything that turn. You can safely sacrifice your Crested Sunmare just to gain 5 life to trigger off the Sunmare again. So, or the Crested Sunmare token is what I'm suggesting here. So, if nothing else, those tokens are a renewable resource to gain 5 life. Once Ayli gets up to the 30 life total, you can start to really control the board with the sacrificing a creature and having your opponent or exiling a permanent, non-land permanent your opponent controls. So that's usually probably not going to come in handy that often, but we do have the Thraben Inspectors. It's our last flex spot, which is perfect for Ayli, and it's a good way, good little fodder to sacrifice. You can also use Kalitas tokens later on. We also are running one other key card in this, which is Kambal, Consul of Allocation, which is also a 2/3, and whenever your opponent casts a non-creature spell, that player loses 2 life and gains 2 life. I like this card paired with the Crested Sunmare, as if you have it out and then cast a Crested Sunmare. If your opponent then untaps and then plays a non-creature spell, and it doesn't kill the Crested Sunmare, then you will gain the life, and then at the end of turn you will trigger off that horse token. So it's pretty good. Even if they kill Kambal at that point, it will still trigger off the Crested Sunmare. So I think it's worthwhile to try Kambal. If Kambal works out, great. If not, then it easily could be slotted out for something like Liliana. See, the mana base is just going to use the usual suspects. We're going to use Shambling Vents, Concealed Courtyards, and Involving Wilds, all as a 4 of, and then just split the rest of the mana base between Plains and basic Swamps. We're going to run a 2 of Cast Out. Cast Out just answers everything right now in the format. It's pretty good. We do have a 1 of Odric. Again, this is a pet card of mine. Odric just pairs really well with Retreat to Hagra as well as Walking Ballista. So it gives her another way for having like a Gifted Aetherborn or an Ayli out and a Walking Ballista to give that Ballista Death Touch. It also can give all of your creatures lifelink, which means that you can start attacking you with Crested Sunmares and actually gaining life. If you do have like a Gifted Aetherborn or an Odric out. Another key sideboard is going to be Dispossess. A lot of people ask me why I run Dispossess right now. Basically, the short answer is Torrential Gearhulk. A lot of times it's their only win con, or maybe it's between that and a few other win cons like the Thing in the Ice, which we can take care of with Fatal Pushes and Grass. So if we name with Dispossess Torrential Gearhulk and it sticks, they're out of basically their win con. Then we have a Sorin Grim Nemesis as a kind of top curve against, again, mid-range base decks, Delirium mid-range base decks. Probably would bring it in versus Rug Energy or Teamer Energy. But I don't want to run more than, like, I don't want to go too heavy on the Planeswalkers just because I don't think we're the greatest at protecting them unless it's called, Little Liliana at the 3-drop. I think that's like the only one this deck really wants on curve. Of course, we talked about the 2 Flaying Tendrils. We're going to run the 3 Transgress the Minds as ways to rip out. Probably the most important card would be probably Hour of Devastation, I'm assuming. Can be a little bit rough for us because it does wipe our board completely. And again, it's good versus like Glimmers from Torrential Gearhulk, or can rip out Torrential Gearhulk. And as I spoke before, we had the 4 Walking Ballistas, and we run a 1 of Anguished Unmaking. Between the 3 cast outs and the 1 Anguished Unmaking, I think we have kind of those tricky permanents that we need to take care of answered. So that's the gist of the deck. Again, I have no clue what the metagame is going to shape up. I think people are undervaluing some of the key cards from the Hour of Devastation. I think Uncaged Menagerie is going to be powerful. Tormenting Voice, Hour of Devastation. Anyway, we'll get on to some matches here and see how well we do. This has been Kevin. Or the matches will be in the description, and we'll have timestamps in the description and in the comment section so you can follow along and see the matchups. Let's get started. Okay, match number 1. This hand is pretty clunked up at the 3-drop, no removal. Of course, we're on the play, so that is a little bit better because we can start off with this Harvester into an Emissary. And if we do draw 2 lands, this has a huge payoff. So I'm going to keep it. And if it is like a slower base deck, we could have a lot of action. If it's going to be a quick deck, actually, I would prefer to go against something that's more aggressive. Probably just end up being the usual suspects of the energy. It's going to take a while for the metagame to shift to anything. Energy is still solid. It basically has game against all of the decks. It's your 50% deck at the moment. It's a very solid choice, as you don't really feel dead against any match. Maybe the white blue monument is kind of the trickiest matchup for energy because you get outvalued. But other than that, it's like if you go against zombies, that's pretty 50-50, maybe a little bit in favor of the energy. If you go against Mardu, if you go against even green-black. So you're going to see a lot of Teamer energy just because it seems to be one of the safer routes. So we do hit our 4th land drop, which is good because now we are just 1 away from Crested Sunmare, and Crested Sunmare currently is the only 5-drop in our entire deck. So it's basically we have no dead draws at this point. So see if we are going up against like the Rogue Refiner. There's a Virtuoso. Virtuoso is not going to be, it's not going to be an issue. So here I don't know which one I'd rather do. I think I'd rather just put out a Harvester. And there's our other land drop. So again, we're looking good. We could go, Harvester's probably the, well, I'm going to go Kambal here. And then Harvester the turn after. And this, if it gets Harness Lightning, we're fine. And my opponent's going to go for the Thopter strategy, which I think is quite weak for what we have. I don't think we're going to get beat down by Thopters. It's going to be tough for our opponent to do so. Glorybringers are what this deck relies on. Sometimes it relies on going into the Elder Deep Fiend. That comes and goes in swings with this deck. Like sometimes they really, really like it, and then you won't see it again. So that's going to be a Cut Ribbons that takes care of the Kambal. So we have options here. I think we'll just go the safer option with the Crested Sunmare, which is going to be, yeah, it's going to be the Aethersphere Harvester. And we'll see how well this combo actually works. Like, I could go Drana's Emissary, but then it just gets Harness Lightninged, and then I have a weird turn. Whereas I think Harvester's a lot better, because my opponent does tap out for like a Glorybringer here. Then we get the value. And speak of the devil. So there's the Glorybringer. My opponent is not going to be happy with this play because we get a lot of power on board, and we also get 3 life back. So, and the Glorybringer doesn't really do anything on the backswing. Kind of attacking into a Harvester. Or I guess we won't have a Harvester out this turn, but because we're going to be attacking in with it. But yeah, the Emissary would have just died to the Glorybringer. And there's an Inspector. Sure, later on, that's fine. So we'll go ahead and throw down our horse and then crew. And we have a indestructible horse. So opponent still has 4 cards in hand, still has a healthy mana base. Can't really attack into the horse. And there's a Harness Lightning. It's going to take a lot of my opponent's energy. But yeah, the horse did get value. That's exactly what we wanted the horse to do. So Glorybringer is a bit of an issue. But we can start crewing the Harvester at that point, and it can at least block. And we can also start attacking in with our horse. I can also take care of the Whir the Virtuoso by cracking a clue and Fatal Pushing. So I'm probably thinking that's the right play. Might as well get that going. So we're going to go the Thraben Inspector. And do I want to use it next turn? I'm not sure it matters. No, I think we want to hit a land drop. Alright, there's another Crested Sunmare. We'll go ahead and use the Fatal Push. There's not a lot of stuff to use for the Fatal Push. The Virtuoso, of course, is a good target as it gets a little tricky later on. I could crew here and get in for 8. Do I want to really race my opponent at this point? No, I think I'd rather use the lifelink for next turn for another Crested Sunmare. So I'm just going to go ahead and attack in with the horse. Now I do have to be very aware of my life total because the ribbons is something that can be flashbacked, which this deck is very capable of doing so with Aether Hubs and like a Servant of the Conduit. I think that I don't know if a Braid will eventually end up replacing Cut Ribbons as the instant speed 3 damage is really what they're looking for rather than sorcery speed 4 damage. It's probably pretty close. Yeah, there we go though. That's where it gets tricky because of the essentially 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 damage that can happen. And there's still 2 cards in my opponent's hand. I doubt the Lumbering Falls gets activated. Well, the Lumbering Falls did get activated, so my opponent is going for a cut. I have to use the lifelink here, I think. So my opponent's trying to do 5 damage perfectly, and then get in there with the cut ribbons. The other way I could do is I could block the Thopter, block the Lumbering Falls, take 4, and then on the backswing use the lifelink. So also Harness Lightning could easily be. Yeah, Harness Lightning could take out the Aethersphere Harvester, and then I'd be in a really rough spot. So we're going to crew. I think I have to use the lifelink here. And geez, my opponent just has the nuts. So Harness has perfect energy. And I take 4, 5, 6, 7. And I don't think I can... Oh, my opponent can't activate the... So I need to draw a Grass of Darkness off the top. I think that's the only out I have. Ayli's also okay, because it can gain me the life back. And that is not what I wanted. We can get it there for 6. And how much do I need to do? 4. So I gain 5. Do I need to keep back a Thraben Inspector? Just in case for another Lumbering Falls activation. Now I can cast both a Drana and an Ayli. No, I think I just get in here with the horse. And get my opponent down to a 5. And then we cast Ayli. This gives us 2 things we can sacrifice if I play the Gifted Aetherborn. Gives me a blocker and 2 things I can sack. Huh. I wonder if that's the right play or it is the Emissary. The Emissary will trigger off an Exert on the Emissary, and then I do have a blocker for, I'll take 4, but then go up to a 4. So it still require me to block the Glorybringer, or block the Lumbering Falls. So I'm still under the assumption that the best thing to do is just cast the Emissary. Okay, so yeah, let's just think this out, think this through. And sacrifice Thraben Inspector and a Gifted Aetherborn after blocks. I think that's better. Is it better? Yeah, I think this is the better play. Rather than the Emissary. Because the Emissary will just get killed by the Glorybringer. They'll exert it. So hope my opponent just didn't draw another removal spell. That'll be the worst case scenario. I mean, close game though. Double Harness Lightning, cut ribbons. This is the perfect land. Well, I guess there's worse hands that the Teamer Energy could have, but I mean, this was pretty perfect energy to kill both my things, the Harvester and the Crested Sunmare with the 2 Harness Lightnings. Yeah. Yeah, I absolutely love this play because this should lead to a pretty nice crackback. So where is the Glorybringer going to exert? Opponent has to have another Harness Lightning in hand. So it's going to go for Ayli. So now I have to eat the Crested Sunmare. Now I don't want the Gifted Aetherborn to die. I could sack the Thraben Inspector. But it's actually going to get more damage through. I guess I could have went, yeah, I think this is the better play. 4-5. Because it's exerted. Block here. We go down to a 2. And what is that last card in my opponent's hand? That's the tricky part. Shambling Vent would have been nice 1,000 turns ago. But I don't know of anything in my opponent's hand that can stop this. So my opponent needs some really good top decks. Needs to go, the best thing my opponent can do is drop something that gains energy, and then it has energy for the hubs to then do 4 damage. They'll actually only has to do 3 with the Thopter. Because we have a ton of power on board, the Glorybringer is not untapping. So Serve the Conduit wins the game here. And so does a Whirler Virtuoso and a Rogue Refiner. Or another Glorybringer. All right, so this is the God Hand. We don't have to worry about this happening every time. I think I played to my outs the best possible with this. Again, we have plenty of Grasp of Darknesses to deal with these Glorybringers. Plenty of Blessed Alliance type cards too. So that was just pretty unfortunate. I don't think we need Flaying Tendrils. Castouts are okay. Yes, castouts are good here. I think we will play a little more of the control route. I'm not going to go into Walking Ballista. I don't think it's necessary. Or Odric or Anguished Unmaking. Sorin, even Sorin at the top end. Sorin's hard to protect in this particular one. It might turn into a card advantage war, so you can make the argument to bring in. The card that is weak is Fatal Push. Fatal Push just kills the Tireless Trackers. That's about all that it's going to do. So I think we'll bring in the Sorin Grim Nemesis and possibly some Transgresses are pretty good. I just don't like a lot of times Transgress in this matchup because it just ends up being like a card advantage war. I do not like the Emissaries at all. I think they're just too weak in this one. So, yeah, I think this is fine. If we can rip out those Glorybringers, we should be okay. But double Glorybringer, double Harness, 1 cut. And then, back it up with Whirler Virtuoso. Our Shambling Vent came out kind of awkward. We could have used it probably a turn by an activation. All right, yes, we'd like to play first. And I think that this is going to be a keepable hand. This is right on the verge. We need the other Grasp of Darkness mana. Vast majority of cards in our deck will tap for that Grasp of Darkness mana. But I'm vulnerable to like a Tireless Tracker hand for sure. And there we go. Now this hand became really good. So if my opponent does play a Tireless Tracker, I probably have to kill it. This is a very awkward hand. My opponent has to spend energy no matter what. Maybe a Servant of the Conduit comes out. They usually don't run them, though. It has the Long Tusk Cub, and that card I might just take care of rather than a Kambal? No, I don't think that's a card that's going to give us too much of an issue. My opponent still does have to use energy as well. So it looks like my opponent kept a very greedy hand. Best case scenario is like an Attune in hand. I think my opponent would have used Attune. So it needs to drop like a red source that comes into play untap, which is, yeah, that is going to be the Servant. Yeah, Servant's difficult because it adds that Long Tusk Cub. But I can still always just take care of the Long Tusk Cub, so. Spends the energy, gets back the energy. And that one's kind of weak. A second one. So I've got to make the decision of, I think I just throw this back. There's an Attune. Hey, we get some life out of it, though. But my opponent is going to get some more energy. I'm going to try to bait out an activation of energy. Unless like a Whirler Virtuoso comes out, and then we have to kill the Long Tusk Cub in response. So not going to pump it up, so yes, now we will grasp. I think my opponent would just slam out a Blossoming Defense if... Okay, that's how it's going to work. But can't use the energy here. So, okay, then it still dies. Yeah. So I'm like, I was wondering if my opponent decided not to use energy to harness lightning. Jeez, that is crazy. Well, my opponent is going to go all in on the Long Tusk Cub. I guess that's good news. I only take 1 damage here too, so I don't know if that ended up being a good play for me. It's now I cut out all the fatal pushes is the problem. So here I could go evolving. No, we just throw out a Crested Sunmare. And we need a way to gain life. Double Harness Lightning are taken care of though. But that Long Tusk Cub is just really going to be tough to deal with. I have Blessed Alliances that are outs. There's a lot of outs still. Again, the double Harness Lightning hands just drive me insane, especially when my opponent had mana up for both of it. Yeah. Good news is I'm still in pretty decent shape. As far as life total is concerned. And there's 2 Harness Lightnings that are taken care of. 2 of them. So at what point is my opponent just going to start top decking to the 3rd and 4th? And here's an Elder Deep Fiend, and that is rough. Do I just die here? Because Elder Deep Fiend can't. I can't block. Well, this gives me an option to draw into a basic land and just go for a Kambal. That would have been very good. I'm going to keep the Evolving Wilds back, not going to crack it. because it gives us... Ah, that is so gross. Oh, I can't play it this turn. Next turn I can. Take damage, take damage. Yeah. I have Death Touchers can deal long touch. There's a lot of things in my deck that can just flat out deal with the cub. And Glorybringer, I think, just means that I lose here. Yeah, 16 damage. So crazy, crazy. Okay, only saw the one grasp. Only saw, yeah, the double combo crested. Possibly that was a mulligan. I don't think so, though. I don't think so. Again, I think this is going to be a very, very favorable matchup eventually. When we start, you know, playing the numbers against it. Can't rely on having the answers every time. So I'm pretty sure my opponent kept a risky hand too. Otherwise, why wasn't the Attune with the Aether played early? And so it could have easily been punished. All right, we'll go on to the next match. Alrighty, match number 2. Yes, we'd like to play first. I think this is an acceptable hand. We have double Fatal Push, a Retreat, a Gifted. It's awkward. I think that we do go and just grab a basic... No, I'm going to just throw out a Swamp here. And I don't want to crack the Evolving Wilds quite yet because I just want more information. Like, if we could have just cracked an Evolving Wilds for a Swamp and then threw out Gifted Aetherborn. And here we go again. Oh, this is going to be different. This is going to be a Delirium-based deck. Being able to move top card of your library into graveyard. Sacrifice card, return up to one target creature card and one target land from graveyard to your hand. Sure. So some sort of a Delirium-based deck. So here we will, hopefully, yep, we draw into a land. That's good. So I'm glad I didn't shuffle away the... And the island goes to my opponent's graveyard. And a Perpetual. This is going to be some sort of prized amalgam list, I'm assuming. Crawling Sensation. Being upkeep, you put a top 2 whenever one more land cards. Is it going to be some Gitrog monster list? This is a Gitrog. There's Evolving Wilds. This hand's going to look better with the more lands we are able to assemble. Unfortunately, we're a turn behind. If I gambled and would have went for the Evolving Wilds into a swamp and then naturally drew into plains, they have a 2-3 curve with the combo, and the combo would be hopefully starting to punish. There's a Scrap Heap. I do have ways to deal with the Scrap Heap Scrounger with the Flaying Tendrils, which we most likely will bring in, even though Prize Amalgam is probably a big deal. If it takes care of one of their cards, I think it's worthwhile. Alright, so we are a lifelink deck too, so whoops! Forgot to crack that land there. That's going to hurt. And a turn. Too busy chatting rather than paying attention to the screen. We just need the other white. I'm going to go ahead and crack. No, we can keep the Fatal Push back. And I'm going to go ahead and attack in. Grapple. Yeah, some sort of prize amalgam list. So I will remember to crack this Evolving Wilds at the end of my turn. And Traverse the Ulvenwald. I don't know, this could still, in all honesty, have 4 colors though. we'll push it. I mean, there's probably probably nothing better to push. So here we'll sacrifice this and go get, yeah, I think another black source is better at this point. And hopefully we draw into land here. No, we did not. So I'll go ahead and attack in with the Gifted Aetherborn. These decks, one of the cards you used to have to worry about was Emrakul. And so with no Delirium Emrakul, Ishkanah's most likely in here. Again, the longer this goes on, the more we'll information we'll have. And here we'll throw out, I'm going to throw out a Kambal. You could make the argument for the retreat to Hagra, but at this point, I think the Kambal is just the correct card coming out. Tons of land. So Haunted Dead, yep, our suspicion was correct. It's going to be a Prized Amalgam deck. Hasn't found any yet. And like I said, I don't have a lot of ways to deal with their amalgams, but the Flaying Tendrils will be insanely good. And I would not be surprised if an Elder Deep Fiend was in this. Grasp of Darkness, we miss our land drop again. But I'm just going to go ahead and go for the attack. Elder Deep Fiend could come out in response to this, but we do have the Grasp of Darkness. Just going to chump block. Usually with Prized Amalgam decks as well, they are a deck that does need to dish off that perfect damage. I don't know if I said that earlier, but usually when you slow them down, they do have a renewable resource, but a deck like ours, it's not going to make that much of a difference. I'm going to put out the retreat. And love it when people have to read cards. Retreat is a solid card in this deck. We've used 2 of our Evolving Wilds, but effectively every land drop is going to also drain our opponent. So, and a Kozilek's Return, which gets it in the graveyard. So it is 100. Oh, they have damage on them. Okay, I'm like, why did that kill my stuff? Yeah, they both had damage on them. So, yeah, that was pretty rough. So, old school deck. This deck was a thing. Like, if you notice, it's not using a lot of new cards here. This was a thing pre-Kalitas, this particular deck. I'd say the mana base even was probably a little bit better back then with the caves, or the Yavimaya Coasts, rather than these lands that come into play tapped. Double Scrap Heap still has not found the Prized Amalgam. Can start getting some value out of the Scrap Heaps if my opponent so chooses. We're going to get a Crested Sunmare eventually. The thing is, Crested Sunmares will die to the Kozilek's Return coming back. But now with the Prized Amalgam. And we're going to draw our 4th land eventually here. And there it is, but it's kind of insulting that it comes into play tapped. And here my opponent will have to exile probably another Scrap Heap at that point. So still need another land to hit. Yeah, I'm at 29 life too. So like I said, these prize amalgams are not going to be too worrisome. Gonna go for the Haunted Dead, also getting rid of a Kozilek's Return. And this will trigger off the amalgams. Another Haunted Dead goes to the bin. And a Traverse. So there's 2 Traverses. Those are really good late game because they go get the win con of the Elder Deep Fiend. And in all honesty, I don't really see a better use for the Fatal Push here. So it's just going to go on the Spirit. We'll take 6. Now, cool thing is, if we get 2 Crested Sunmares out too, it does trigger off a both all horses gain indestructible, and so that will help us versus a Kozilek's Return. Not hitting those though. I'm going to go ahead and get in with the Gifted Aetherborn. Because we do need that lifelink. And we'll kill both of them. As well as gain some much needed life. And Elder Deep Fiend is going to be cracked to choose probably not to cast a... Yeah, I don't know if I care this turn. It just... Oh, my opponent is going to decide to go for the Deep Fiend. Yeah, so my opponent's going to try to race here. As they can still go the Scrap Heap. So, annoying, but, I mean, we knew it was inevitably going to get. Missed so many land drops here. One came in on, untapped at the wrong point. Did not hit another. So we're still in okay shape. And eventually I'm going to hit a land drop for this retreat. There's another Deep Fiend my opponent can't get. There is the other prize amalgam. So 2 Deep Fiends, 2 Traverses, or 3 Deep Fiends, 2 Traverses are taking... Oh, there's the other Traverse. So we lose now. Like I said, I'm very familiar playing... Oh, got an island. Why? What's up with the island too? Is there a pump spell that just gives everything? 23 damage though. Oh, needs another island anyway for the Deep Fiend. I understand that now. And so the other Deep Fiend is in hand, it appears. So I think we just get taken care of here. I think I actually have to play... Yeah, this is something I don't want to be doing, is playing the defensive mode here. I don't think again, not hitting those land drops in as many turns as it's been. And especially that Concealed Courtyard was just backbreaking. So our Deep Fiend's going to come out here, apparently. And I don't believe I can survive it. Except if my opponent decides to kill with an Elder Deep Fiend. 5, 6, 7, 8. Nope, I still die. Okay, so onto the sideboard. That was all 4 Elder Deep Fiends, by the way. Milled 2 of them, so got kind of lucky by not milling the Deep Fiends earlier on. We'll bring in Transgresses and Flaying Tendrils and Cast Outs. They're all very good. I don't think we need like Odric or Dispossess. Anguished Unmaking is also pretty decent. You can get rid of a Prized Amalgam forever or something similar to that. We can take out these useless Fatal Pushes. And Blessed Alliance are probably pretty bad in this particular matchup. I'm still going to leave in Grasps. Maybe Blessed... No, Grasps are probably still relevant. Not really. Grasper, I can keep in a few. I don't know if Walking Ballista is just more relevant or something like Sorin is more relevant than Grasp of Darkness. And then at this point too, maybe a Blessed Alliance by untapping creatures is, yeah, well, let's keep in the 1. And this is a matchup I'm not too worried about. We were very, very slow. This is going to be a mulligan, though. And I'm going to keep it. It's awkward again. We'll put the Evolving Wilds on top because we do want more lands. And we do at least have a little bit quicker of a hand with the Gifted Aetherborn. And Aethersphere Harvester does seem like a kind of a messy card for my opponent to deal with. No first turn mill card either. See if a Perpetual Timepiece comes out here. No green source for my opponent. So I think I'm going to, yeah, go for the Harvester. Might as well get it out rather than Evolving Wilds. And there is a Aether Hub for a green source, but it's a one-time use. Might have to use a Traverse to go get a green. Crawling Sensation, sure. And why didn't I play the Aethersphere Harvester? Wow, I am missing things like crazy here. There's a Thraben Inspector. I think I'd rather just play the Inspector, crack the clue, try to get further on. And geez. We will sack the Evolving Wilds, grab another Plains, and attack in. So let's hope for Elder Deep Fiends going to the bin. Now they can get them back by using a Traverse. I am definitely okay with both a Blooming Marsh and a Traverse going to the graveyard. No green source. There goes 2 ways to get green sources. Yeah, my opponent's in pretty bad shape at the moment. Let's go ahead and get this last one cracked out of here and go get a just a black spine here and go ahead and we'll put out the Harvester over the Ayli as it gives us a way around like Kozilek's Return. Okay, now we should be good. Evolving Wilds and a Prized Amalgam, so it did find one card that my opponent did want in the graveyard. However, Still is missing the green source. Again, the mana base is insanely greedy. Green sources will come and play tapped at this point too. Well, the vast majority of them. And here my opponent's probably, yeah, discarding the Haunted. Dead! I'm going to Transgress. Let's get an Elder Deep Fiend out of the way. I don't think we need to. Jeez. Risky and all. Insult to injuries are even in this thing, so Kozilek's Return I don't care about. I could get rid of it forever. Deep Fiend is still probably the best. As Deep Fiend is the easiest one to cast. The Descendant Mindbender does give us issues. My opponent has to discard 2 cards as well. Probably going to throw out the Kozilek's Return. Yeah, so I actually do think Elder Deep Fiend is the trickier card to deal with. We're going to crew the Harvester and go ahead and attack in. And I'm not quite sure we even care about Ayli coming out here. I think that give a way to crew Ayli. Descendant Mindbender will rip out. Yeah, this is just maybe Descendant Mindbender was the. I think I have to play it here. I think that we'd rather throw out Ayli, at least get some value. I'm pretty certain my opponent is going to discard, see what my opponent discards to get back the prized amalgam. Kozilek's Return in an insult to injury. Alright, so let's just hope for not a black source from my opponent. Well, it's 2 cards. Another Elder Deep Fiend. Perpetual Timepiece. Did get another prized amalgam back. Does have a Haunted Dead. And we'll decide to go in for the prized amalgam. So still very awkward that Kozilek's Return in the graveyard. Just a matter of time before my opponent does. Draw into. But we will go Crested Sunmare. Go ahead and play the planes. Go ahead and crew the Thraben Inspector. Block. Do we care about a Haunted Dead? Double blocking. Yeah, we'll attack with everything. And keep up that mana. Don't need to use the energy for the Harvester. Okay, so we gain life here. which means we will get a horse. We're still kind of at the mercy of my opponent drawing that black source now. Yeah, Kozilek's Return is good. I don't know. It could have been the play. Get rid of the Kozilek's Return. Blooming Marsh Aether Hub. All right, so there was another card that could have came in and gave the energy for the Distended Mindbender. And here we'll just sack a Inspector. Here comes another horse. Throw out the vent. Go ahead and crew. Attack with everything. My opponent does have blockers. And a mountain and a forest. So 2 cards my opponent did not want. And I'm going to allow this to happen. I'm going to gain some life here. Some more life. And we could just sack the Gifted Aetherborn to... Can't do it until I gain the life, though. Get rid of the Prize Amalgam indefinitely. But it's just going to go back to the bin. We'll lose our Aetherborn, go to 33. And it could also kill... Kind of funny, I could Flaying Tendrils here and just completely get rid of all of the Haunted Deads. But again, I don't think that's necessary. Need to find my other indestructible horse. And at that point, I don't think my opponent can win. Go some more lands in the graveyard. Both of those my opponent did not want to draw, so. But I don't know how many like swamps my opponent does run. We're going to do something tricky here. Goodbye, Amalgam. And we take no damage. I'm going to go ahead and just sack. Because this gives us another lovely horse for free. And I'm going to go ahead and do this right now. Get rid of these Haunted Deads. My opponent wants some form of... As this does allow us attacking for lethal. Yeah. As if my opponent were to block with a Prize Amalgam at that point, it'd be lethal. All right, so that time my opponent was stuck. Still don't think there's anything to really bring in here. This would be an point where the Dispossess would be much better suited as the Lost Legacy. This is an acceptable hand. It doesn't really have a game plan, but it does have really what we need it to have at the moment as far as the mana base is concerned. And there we go. There's a card I wanted to see. Other than it gets awkward with yeah, no, Kalitas is a solid card, even though we don't have the Grasp of Darkness and Fatal Push. It's still a very solid card. No first turn play by my opponent either. There's a Perpetual Timepiece. I'm going to go ahead and just go for Evolving Wilds. I think that it's probably just better to crack a clue here, though. And the Thraben Inspector is going to start getting in for some damage. Did find the Haunted Dead. That is not what we wanted to see this early in. With the Perpetual Timepiece. Crawling Sensation. We'll crack a clue. There's an Emissary. Emissary's awkward. I think I might just get out the Retreat to Hagra next turn. There's the Kozilek's Return in the graveyard as well. So yeah, now I definitely don't want something like a... There's our Flaying Tendrils. I do believe it's Retreat. Another Kozilek's Return. We take a damage from the insect. My opponent does not decide to do anything. On my turn, another Kalitas. Kind of awkward at this point. We'll throw out a Kambal. Or do we want to go a Drana? I'm going to go a Kambal. And we'll just drain our opponent for as much as we can. Now I could attack and then a spirit comes in. Probably worthwhile. Yeah, this is probably worthwhile for a block on a spirit and an insect. There's nothing to do about a spirit at the moment, so... Okay, so it's not going to go for the block route. Going to go down to 16. Every damage really matters at this point, too. Quite certain that we're going to have an activation with the Haunted Dead. Really? A red source? I don't understand the red. The both Kozilek's Returns are both in the graveyard. 2 Botanical Sanctums. Those were not what the opponent wanted. And here comes the activation of the Haunted Dead. Which gets a prized amalgam. Doesn't get a prized amalgam. Gets an absolutely nothing. Scrap Heat and another Haunted Dead. So, yeah, that was a really good turn of events. Without, I think my opponent really needs the prized amalgams out as quickly as possible. Elder Deep Fiends are going to be something that can come out, wipe a board, tap down. And we will block the Haunted Dead. I still think it's worthwhile to block the Haunted Dead here, as there's multiple in the graveyard. Because now an Elder Deep Fiend cannot be activated. Even with a... Alright, so let's throw out Kalitas here. Still worthwhile, in my opinion, to attack in with both. And 2 cards, a Crawling Cessation, and another Hub. So again, 2 cards my opponent does not want in the graveyard. And see if a double block on the Inspector happens. That's fine with me. Still makes another black source too. My opponent does not have the second black source for the Distended Mindbender. Did find a prize amalgam now, though. And decided not to triple block. Insult, which does double damage this turn. Will definitely block the most damage possible. And that did a lot of damage, for sure. Opponent is not going to like the fact that I have a Transgress, or a Flaying Tendrils, though. And now an Exiled, and everything else will be exiled. So in all honesty, I probably should just attack him with the zombie. We're going to leave back Kambal. So yeah, the zombie and the Thraben Inspector can come in. And Insult to Injury is pretty aggressive for sure. Assuming the perpetual, I'm surprised the perpetual timepiece didn't happen here. Now, I don't need to play around 2 damage to target player. Yeah, because the combo can get around that. Don't think I have to worry about what's in my opponent's hand. I mean, Blessed Alliance could gain 4 life and possibly lead to a bad attack by my opponent, but I think it's just the better play to just go with Flaying Tendrils. As even if my opponent gets a land and insult injury, we're still okay. Or just flashing back this injury portion. Definitely a cool deck, though. So another Blooming Marsh. Can't really cast anything without Combo dishing off some damage as far as the injury portion. So, in fact, I will block. That's probably what my opponent's going to end up doing. Attacking with the insect. I'll block with the combo. No, that is interesting. Huh, we get a Thraben Inspector here. I think we need to keep up the Blessed Alliance. As a way to gain life. The Haunted Dead does come back with a spirit. This is a tough... I still am just so disgusted with not trying another land this game. As it does, yeah, finds another land. My opponent finds a land with... and does have a Prize Amalgam in hand. Oh, that is just gross. No way around that. Gross, gross, gross. We do get a gain 4 life. However, this is still... I'm most likely still going to lose this game. As could not hit the 5th land just to... Because I don't go... Maybe we do go Kalitas there. So the insult to injury can happen, but that's fine. We can just go... Block. And just block on an insect. And then we gain 4. So we're taking 4 and gaining 4. But my opponent can also still do insult injury from the graveyard. And I'd lose on the back. Like, I don't have enough to push through. I can push 2 damage through. There's double insult injuries in my opponent's graveyard. Decided not to use it. That's actually huge. Cast out. Here is Kalitas. I have to go Kalitas. No, I didn't. No, I didn't just lose. Because the insult injury will tax my opponent. But still, missed the land drop. Again, we're at four lands here into turn. Or I guess we're only on turn 8 here, but still. If that's another Deep Fiend in my opponent's hand, I'm just pretty much done. Finds another token off of that. So land every activation has found one. Literally everyone. And top deck the Elder Deep Fiend? No, just a scrap heap. So that's why my opponent decided to go that route. Finds another land off of the Crawling Sensation. 2 cards in hand. Gotta think that's an Elder Deep Fiend at this point. Just couldn't close this game out. And there's the Elder Deep Fiend, which tap downs all of my stuff, which was the last card in hand. And that is game. So awkward though. I mean, yeah. I'm not going to say much about it. Possibly going to play this more correctly with the Flaying Tendrils attack. Possibly, I don't know. Maybe no. The Transgress I couldn't have ripped that Elder Deep Fiend out because that was a top deck. So I don't think playing a cast out there either would have done anything. And I really don't see another way I could have played that. Oh well, we'll go on to the next match. Alrighty, so match number 3. Let's hope for some better luck on the lands this game. We can be in the position that I still think this is keepable. I mean, look at the curve here. We do have the removal with the emissaries. The more and more I play this card, the less I like it. I think that Aethersphere Harvester is just a lot better. I think that going into a card that doesn't die as easy to any spot removal and still synergizes with the horse is the right route to go. But you know, we're gonna keep this hand and lead off with the vent and then have a swamp, and then we can literally cast any 2-drop at that point because we do have the double black. I'm also thinking a card like a Glint Sleeve Siphoner and Aether Hubs with the added Aethersphere Harvesters could have a nice little energy theme to it, maybe even running some live fast for draw cards, and that would allow us to essentially have a way to keep the pace with a lot of the other card draw from other decks, but it'll have to be an exploration for another day. So we have a Soulscar Mage. This is a pretty decent match for us, as we have plenty of removal spells, and we have life gain. So any sort of red deck is going to have a tough time pushing through a deck that is just trying to gain life. So that's the good news here. So Incendiary Flow, and we'll go ahead and just Fatal Push the Soulscar Mage. And we do miss our land drop, which is as typical gets. Alrighty, so we do have a nice play with Kambal is insane versus this. Everything in our deck is just is incredibly good versus our opponent's game plan of just trying to burn us down. And there's a shock, as well as a Reckless Bushwhacker that is kicked, which I am just going to Grasp the Darkness. So now my opponent is kind of out of cards, but we're getting stuck again on the 2-landers. So that's 3 draws, I believe. 4 draws? What turn are we on? We're on turn 4. So I had 3 draws to hit a land, which is about average. We should have hit one in those. And this is pretty good that we actually do have a Blessed Alliance here. As our opponent will have to sacrifice it, so. Now, all we have to do is hit a land. That's it. And we do. Okay, so Kambal, I think, since we have multiples, is the better card to throw out. As it can eat a removal spell and gain 2 life at the same time. Borderland Marauder is not a threat at the moment. And a Cartouche is also not a threat. Actually, that's pretty good. We do get to gain the 2 life. However, our opponent will get to attacking for, what does it end up being? Ends up being for 4? No, for, yes, for 4. So that does hurt. But we have the answer by drawing another land and grabbing a Kalitas. So I still do think we attack in here. Yes, there could be another Cartouche, but at that point, Kalitas is just going to shut our opponent down. It must be the worst feeling as my opponent queues up with a mono red deck into a black-white life gain. Yeah, I know the feeling. There's a Bloodledge Brawler. There's no card to discard, so it ends up being just a 4/3. The Borderland Marauder, of course, cannot attack into... That was the stupid... Oh, at least they can't attack in. Yes, because it becomes a 4/3. But we'll definitely make this block, as it gives us a zombie. As well as we can just Fatal Push now with that top deck. And might just be a concession here. No concession, but should be a concession after this Emissary. As that's going to be too much life gain. All right, so I absolutely don't fear any top deck here. I think the worst case scenario would be something like a Chandra. No, even a Chandra at that point wouldn't be that threatening. And we're not going to play anything else here. We're just going to go for the Shambling Vent, because this allows for a 2-turn clock. As well as puts up stuff to 19, effectively up to 20. And here should be the concession. There's 0 things my opponent can draw into here, unless there's like random Hour of Devastation off the top shenanigans, which would be the most implausible thing ever. So yeah, opponent plays a creature, we still attack in for lethal. Alrighty, so onto the sideboard. Sideboard, we don't really need to change much. Walking Ballista does seem decent. Odric actually does seem good in this one. Again, we literally don't have to change a thing here, unless I wanted to put in an Odric. The only other option would be possibly, no, even retreats. Grass, retreats, Gifted Aetherborns. Flaying Tendrils could also be an option. I might bring in the Tendrils, because we did see, what, 2 Borderland Marauders. We did see, yeah, I think the Flaying Tendrils actually are pretty decent. So bringing them in for possibly just these Emissaries. The more I play with the card, the more I don't like it. So it's definitely the cut. For what I would do is Aethersphere Harvester. A full playset of Aethersphere Harvester would be my best bet in this deck. And then, again, we can explore the idea of going into more of an energy heavy, since there would be 4 Harvesters gaining the energy, that possibly, you know, it would be a decent little curve with the Glint Sleeve Siphoner and start drawing some cards. But that probably isn't the route to go either. Let's go ahead and mulligan this. And we're going to mulligan this. And we're going to mulligan this. And we'll keep this. So that's how you lose against this, is you mulligan to 4. But, I mean, you could possibly get there. Courier is going to be an issue. Having problems with lands. I think 24 is right, though. I don't think we go to 25 and curve out where our curve is at. I'll have to reanalyze it, but yeah, it's something that we should be hitting our 5-drop on time with 24 lands. That's exactly where you want to be. So I'm going to let him attack, and I'm actually going to take the damage. I think it's worth it for more information. I will end of turn take care of the courier if there's just nothing better. And at that point, my opponent gets a damage for information is how that works. But if like a Blood-Raised Brawler comes down here, we'll take care of the Brawler. So I'm just going to kill the Beaumont Courier. Sure, we do take the damage. Not a big deal. Go down to a 15. Draw another land. So at this point, I'm just going to crack this for another swamp. So the good news is we do have Crested Sunmare, which means we have no... the only top deck that we have that is dead is Flaying Tendrils to a little bit, and as well as more Crested Sunmares. But everything else in our entire deck can be played at this point. A land will get us that Crested Sunmare. If I do lose this match too, I possibly just let my opponent go first. I don't think there's any point to going first against this match. Like in Standard, you rarely ever take the play. But in this, I think that maybe card advantage is something that might be useful. So we did draw the other land, so we're in the opposite end of the spectrum of hitting Evolving Wild, Evolving Wild, no lands, Evolving Wilds, mulligans. And a shock now here to go to 10. No creatures, though. Opponent needed a creature out. And there's the Borderland Marauder. No cartouche. Harvester's actually not bad. It's going to be a tough card for my opponent to kill. I'll be able to gain 3 life, as well as get a 5/5 and a 5/5. So I think that we might stabilize here. The only problem is if my opponent has like shock. Yeah, has shock and another card in hand, like a... Is there a 4 damage spell? The 7, 8, 9. Yeah, I think that... I don't think there's anything my opponent can actually end a turn here. Shock... No, yeah. So I'm going to be taking 4, go to 6. Shock and Insult Injury. And would have cast that beforehand. So this is going to be a really good play as we go Plains and go Crested Sunmare. Could have like an Act of Treason type card too. Carries Expertise. Wrangle won't work though. Yeah, Carries Expertise should definitely be a card that my opponent could play. Lightning Axe. Okay, well, we still get the damage in. And we're still mercy at my opponent's top deck. So Marauder gets in for 3 damage per turn. So we're negating that damage. The Kambal will also negate a bit of that. Now we have a double. We have a double whammy here. So we'll go Kambal, crew it, lifelink it. Yeah, this is... I think that we stabilized. I think we won this game. There's really not a lot my opponent can top deck into at this point. Used a lot of the incendiary flows. Oh, another lightning axe in hand is... not something they can cast without another card to discard. At this point, I will make the block on the Borderland Marauder. I mean, it's a correct attack, but it's also a correct block. As I go back up to a 12, yeah, this gives me an attacker with the Harvester. And that, if anything, just solidified this victory. It was the Fatal Push. I don't even need to be conservative with my life total. I think getting in for damage is better at this stage in the game. Now I'm pretty sure there might be another lightning axe in my opponent's hand. Again, not a big deal. There's an Ayli, so crew. Probably should have put out the Ayli first. There is the damage, and it's effectively have 8 more life at our disposal, so and there is the GG by my opponent. We win a mold of 4. That's how much matchups can matter. We did kind of looks like our way out of that one, though, with basically drawing the perfect amount of lands on time with the perfect cards. So, yep. Alrighty, we'll go on to the last match. Alright, so match number 4. We see this hand, which has double Crested Sunmare, a Gifted Aetherborn we can't cast, a Aethersphere Harvester we also can't cast, and a Thraben Inspector. We want double white. We need double black as soon as possible. I think this is a mulligan. It's got kind of some awkward draws. This is almost as bad, but at least we do have a game plan here. So I'm going to put the Fatal Push on the bottom, as I'd rather dig for those lands. And we'll start off with the Shambling Vent. So, again, this is a risky hand. Emissary's so bad. Get rid of them. It's not. This card does not belong in this deck. I still like the retreats, in theory. I think the retreats are underrated a bit with the ability to drain our opponent. And the Death Touch they might actually be unnecessary as well. I think Harvester definitely is a must, as a 4 of in this deck. And then we can look at other cards that will crew the Harvester pretty efficiently. We put a Fatal Push on the bottom, and it puts it on the top anyway. Okay, we'll go with the Gifted Aetherborn. And this is going to be the Torrential Gearhulk deck. This is probably going to be the one of the toughest matchups, unless we can somehow stick the Crested Mare. But it's going to be access to things like Harness Lightning, access to Hour of Devastation. Hour of Devastation and Torrential Gearhulk is just an insane combination as well, because the Gearhulk does survive. So I'm going to expect that deck to become tier 1 pretty quickly. So we get the Evolving Wild. I would have rather had a basic there. And the Gifted Aetherborn is probably going to get curb stomped here as it tries to attack in and get Harness Lightninged. Again, though, this could just be a Grixis control, trying to get Nicol Bolas. Maybe we have time to set up. We'll just pass the turn here because there's no point in cracking anything at the moment. I will remember to crack the Evolving Wilds, though, at the end of turn. And there is the Abrade. Yep. Really good card. I think this is going to be actually the most influential card, this standard. I think we needed a 3 damage instant speed spell that didn't have to rely on energy. Even though I guess Harness Lightning is 3 damage regardless. But the ability for this to destroy an artifact too is pretty good. Uh-oh, I could get stifled here. Forgot that card exists. Nope, does not stifle me. We do need another Plains. I'd love to actually hit a Kambal. Kambal's pretty good in this matchup. It does die quite quickly, but at least you get the 2 life, 2 damage. But my opponent's probably just going to counter whatever comes out. So we do draw another Plains, which can get... Yeah, we do want to spend our mana, so regardless... Ooh, well, this gets around Censor. Yeah, let's go for the Emissary, because we can play around Censor. I should have kept up a Fatal Push mana, but I tapped incorrectly. And my opponent decides that this is not a threatening card and lets it happen. Because we have another braid happening. Okay. Fair enough. There's a Grass of Darkness. This time, I think it's just combo again. I'm not going to run out the Kalitas. You could have made the thing well. Kalitas could have resolved there. Braid couldn't kill it. Most likely the counterspell magic is holding back in my opponent's hand. So I'd rather play that on Censor as a more likely... Yep, there we go. Supreme Will, another card that is really, really powerful. And we do get countered. Cannot pay for it. But, for whatever reason, if my opponent decided to activate a Wandering Fumarole and attack in, we can Fatal Push it. There's always that option. But not with the tap land. Alright, a Shambling Vent is nice. At this point, I don't think we have any option. We just have to throw Kalitas into a Censor. And it happens. I am very surprised. The Torrential Gleehook Braid does not kill it either. See if this is an Hour of Devastation. A Goblin Dark Dweller does not kill it either, so I am pretty happy with this. It does get back the Supreme Will, though. So the Supreme Will is going to look at top 4 cards of your library and put one in their hand, the rest on the bottom. That card is really, really powerful. Both of these are the 2 Kalitas cards that I think are incredibly playable in Standard, but also might hit the Modern scene, as the options on both of them are really relevant. I like a Braid in a deck like Skred, or, in all honesty, even a deck that just, any deck that has access to red, it's one of the tough matchups for the modern meta game right now is going to be Affinity, and killing a creature a lot of times isn't the correct play. You want to kill something like their Cranial Plating, and a Braid can do that. You can kill either or. Usually, I mean, it kills all their creatures regardless with the Destroy Artifact, but it's something that, against other matchups, though, it's something that it doesn't kill a sideboard slot because it's going to be relevant versus all the creature-based decks. So, anyway, where was I going with this? And the Supreme Will, though, is just really powerful. You can see that it's an Anticipate or a counter spell. Fortunate for us, though, we do have the Grass of Darkness, and we do have the Eat a Zombie, as that gets us way above the Hour of Devastation. Well, gets us 1 point above it. And now we can start the beatdown. So that's a pretty good play for us. Also a Braid in Standard, though. It's going to be very good against just the random decks that have a Heart of Kran in. One of the decks that came out of the week 1 was a green-red energy deck that was playing 4 Heart of Kran. So they're trying to crew it with Voltaic Brawlers, Long Tusk Cubs, and the Tireless Trackers. So something like a Braid can kill any of those, plus it can kill a Heart of Kran. So I think that in Standard, it's going to keep the Vehicles decks definitely in check, which is something we did need. First for us, this is a matchup where Collective Brutality would be pretty good. So I can get the Kalitas can die from a Braid / a Shock. But decided not to go down that route. Feels like a desperation attack or cast there, because otherwise, why waste the Goblin Dark Dwellers? Unfortunately, we have our other Kalitas in hand, but we have our life total is really padded at the moment. Four cards still in our opponent's hand. Just insane card advantage at the moment. Lots of lands. We did mulligan, though, so I guess that's a thing. Cycled the Fetid Pool. So we're not in jeopardy of a Torrential Gearhulk. Best case scenario is my opponent activates a Wandering Fumarole. I don't understand. That would be a kind of awkward activation, though, as I don't think there's a chance my opponent can erase me at this point. So there might be an activation on the Wandering Fumarole in the attack here. So if so, my opponent's going to get blown out. Okay, I'm going to allow that to happen. Fatal Push. Okay. So possibly it was the Grass of Darkness on the Goblin Dark Dwellers was a better use. No, the Kalitas would have still died. Yep. So that's, at least I still have a creature in hand. All right. Let's see. The Locust God. And I'm not going to grasp it here. My opponent could have a negate in hand. Because what we're going to try for is we're going to try for a Kalitas to exile for good. Now let's hope it's not a censor. All right, we are in great shape. And we'll check out the zombie. Or attack with the zombie. But it is very, very flooded at the moment. There's the Hour of Devastation. Go ahead and crack this because I think I'd rather have land out of the way at the moment. And if we draw into another land, that means we can double activate these Shambling Vents. Well, yeah, that's an okay draw. We'll just go ahead and chuck it out right now, just in case there's some sort of counter spell unless it plays 3. This adds some inevitability to the mix. Especially if we get in for 2 damage here. Could be the third Abrade in hand, Harness Lightning. Oh, Hour of Devastation. Yeah, Hour of Devastation really messes with the horses. Lose Indestructible. All right, so we'll go ahead and attack in. And now if this connects, we're 2 Evolving Wilds away from winning the game. And we have a nice padding of 39 life. It's not going to be the easiest for the Fumaroles to get in for the damage that they need to. So, opponent does have 2 cards in hand. We do draw a land. Which does allow for double Shambling Vent activations, but we're only going to activate 1. As we want to keep up the Fatal Push for when my opponent does activate a Fumarole. Whoops. This allows for another one. I was a little too waited a little. No. We wanted that. It has to go to the attacks. Yep. Okay, so let's see if my opponent wants to trade. No. So here's the question. Can my opponent do 42 damage before I draw 3 lands? Oh, so it does trade. Yes. Okay, so now, yeah, that's, yeah, I think the 1/4 was probably the right place to keep the Ephemeral. Unless it's a Nicol Bolas. Has this +1, right? Fatal Push. And because it's a non-land. Okay, cool, yeah. Psh, drew another Fatal Push. One is down to a 1. All I need is a land. 1 land, 1 time. I highly doubt my opponent will exile my hand. A Crested Sunmare. That's actually pretty decent. But there's definitely worse things that could happen. I have 2 turns just to hit a land. That's all I need. Ah. Womp womp. Well, at least I stopped my opponent from drawing the Blessed Alliance and gaining 4 life. There's a lot of things that can actually hinder me. Sure. There's another Braid. No! Oh, that's just dirty. Womp womp. Finds my retreat to Hagra. 1 life, can't push through, can't draw a land in time. Oh, so ridiculous. And I don't think I can beat Nicol Bolas. I have to draw Evolving Wilds now. That was one of the... I think that was one of the only cards in my entire opponent's deck that... could have drawn. Dirty. Haven't seen a Torrential Gearhulk, so I'm starting to assume they're not in here. Also, my opponent does get a 5/5, so my own Crested Sunmare can get out of control. So I just need to top deck into a... It has to be a Evolving Wilds. That's the only thing that... that works. Good news is, though, I have only used one Evolving Wilds. Because the horses are going to get out of control with Nicol Bolas. Oh, so close. One turn off. So I'm assuming my opponent has more lands in hand. And we're just going to play this game. In fact, my opponent could easily just go exile. My retreat. And then it's like really, really tough. Possibly should have just kept my Shambling Vent. No, not in my hand. Crazy turn of events. Is that negative 12? Yeah, okay, so there goes the retreat. I'd have no direct damage, nothing in this deck that can even remotely get me out of this. So close. That indestructible horse, too, is something that... Ugh. Now, 2 indestructible horses. I hate you, deck. I hate you. So ridiculous. Evolving Wilds was just a turn away. Finds a Thraben Inspector. Now the only card we can draw into is the other retreat. And that's if my opponent doesn't play a land here. I'm pretty certain there's some sort of counterspell in my opponent's hand. Multiple counterspells I could disallow. And that does it right there. See what we would have drawn for fun. After this, not only did it got me Crested Sunmare, which was also the card that like snowballed my opponent out of control. This is a pure insanity. It's a terrible chain of events there. Don't think this does anything. We can activate and block. Disallowed my Shambling Vent. Yep. Okay. We'll go to the sideboard. And bring in the Transgresses and the Cast Outs and the Anguished Unmakings. And as well as Sorin. And we don't need the Fatal Pushes or Grass. They're good against... Actually, Grass are okay. We'll keep the Grass in. I don't need something like Odric. We, in all honesty, don't even need the Emissary. The Emissary... This card is so bad. The retreats are probably unnecessary. The Blessed Alliances are also unnecessary. I'm thinking like even cards like Walking Ballista are better than nothing. Because late game I can put a lot of mana into them. And that just seems better than relying on these removal spells. Don't need to go Dispossess at all. I didn't see a Torrential Gearhulk. We went through half the deck, no Torrential Gearhulk. So this gives us a little bit more of an umph against our opponent. Add 1 life with a retreat to Hagra. Ay, ay, ay. All right, we'll play first. Keepable hand, yes. We have a cast out. We have a quick hand with the Gifted Aetherborn to dish off some damage. My opponent's also in the position of this probably being the last game, unless I aggro out quick. Uh-oh. Opponent did disconnect as well. But unfortunately, there's one of our Evolving Wilds that takes one of our win cons away. Of the retreat to Hagra for 2 damage. Alrighty. Opponent leads off with a Swamp. And Concealed Courtyard's a decent draw. If we're going to draw it, now was the time. There's the Aetherborn. Just taking Kalitas would have been okay to take out as well. Again, the Kalitas can get above. Didn't see a Censor either. There's another Concealed Courtyard. Again, if we're going to draw them. Rather draw them now than later, when they come into play tapped. And go ahead and attack in with the Gifted Aetherborn. And hopefully this also sticks. Again, didn't see any disallows that last, or the Censors all of last game, so. I think my opponent decided to go more of the Disallow and the Supreme Will. So, I mean, we're off to a pretty great start. Sweltering Sun could be a problem. At least we get some advantage off the Braid. Opponent at 16 life. Doomfall. Gonna take my Cast Out. So really going with the choose one cards. This is Grixis uncommon Hour of Devastation choose cards. But this is going to ooh, really wanted. That means Hour of Devastation is probably in my opponent's hand. No worse feeling than top decking all lands after we had a decent little start. We'll go ahead and attack in with the Gifted Aetherborn. Getting my opponent down to a 14. And even though this is probably a dead card, this is a vampire though, so we can get it over Hour of Devastation. Because we can sacrifice a vampire. Fatal Push is still a real thing though. See what comes out. 4 mana for a Chandra to kill Kalitas. And we do get to kill Chandra, but I mean, it absorbed damage and killed a card, so. Well, when it rains, it pours. No Crested Sunmare there. I don't know if it'd be that decent, though, at this point with our Devastation looming. And at this point, I don't even know if I just keep lands. Oh, jeez. Keep lands in hand. And finds a Fatal Push off the top with 1 black. Okay, I'm done. Magic is not to be played today. That was the one card my opponent could hit in the entire deck, was a Fatal Push off the top. And we literally drew every land. Yep, this was our opening hand, and have drawn all lands since then. So, starting to get a little bit frustrated, but that is the biggest downside with Magic, is variance can be a killer at times. And now I'm sure my opponent is just going to ride Chandra to victory, and there is another land. With another Fatal Push. So not only did I find a Fatal Push on the top, but had one in hand. Ay, ay, ay. Found lands off the top. We're just a Chandra ult away, though. I don't think I can interact with a Chandra ult. A Thraben Inspector. That's the card we wanted to see. Absolutely. So, have to draw a cast out here. I mean, the card's a good card. But I'm sure my opponent's just going to go for the Chandra ult and then seal the victory. Interesting. Negate. Not a lot of synergies with the Chandra Plus. Does give us attack into Chandra. We draw the other planes. Womp womp. And that's just sad that my opponent can feel okay using a braid. Hour of Glory, even. Okay. And there is the emblem. Very, very tough card to beat, especially now with the uptick of Chandra. And there's a Dream Stealer. I'm done. I'm not even going to try to even... That's it. we calling it a day. The amount of floods and stuck on lands, I don't know. That just gross. A lot of those matchups were just absolutely gross with the variance beats. But it is what it is, and doesn't matter. We draw a Shambling Vent after that. So I think the thing I take away from this though is the Drana's replaced with the Aethersphere Harvester, and I think you're going to have some decent matchups. Like in none of these matchups, I felt like they were unwinnable. It definitely was a series of just really, really bad beats, with either opponents top decking or us running into these runs or starves of lands. So seeing if we could draw another card to see how many lands, but you can tell right there. What were we working with, like 2 cards? Yeah, so that entire game we drew 2 non-land cards, a Thraben Inspector and a Crested Sunmare. Was that it? I believe so. Out of the rest of the entire draws this game were lands. Anyway, I'll try to do another match or kind of tinker around with this deck and play it on my channel, see if we can actually get it to a winning record. This has been Kevin with GatheringMagic.com. Thanks for watching.